Asa, a young woman who for many years was lost and confused. Abandoned by her mother at an early age of 5, she was left to fend for herself on the streets of Waterdeep. Finding respite from stealing food from the market stalls, she was able to eat every once in a while. One day, she had gotten a big hit on a food cart, stealing the cart itself. Enjoying it all for herself for a few days, a group of young orphans found out about her cart of food she had acquired, and were willing and ready to take all they could from Asa. They chased her into an alley and beat her into submission, taking her cart of food and nearly her life. When she awoke, she was not in the hard cobblestone alley, but lying in a hay bed with a thin fabric laid over top of it. Bandaged and bruised, she laid there in pain. Looking about the room, she noticed a small, gnomish man brewing up what looked to be a potion of some sort. Eventually, the gnomish man comes to Asa's bedside and gives her the potion, saying, "Here, drink up. You'll feel better." After drinking the potion, her bruises disappear and the pain dissipates. The gnomish man speaks up again. "You must now rest. Don't worry, for you are safe from anyone who would attempt to hurt you here." After a short time, Asa disappears back into a deep sleep, for the first time not worrying about what could happen during her rest. The gnomish man, named Dykert Knackle, and Asa begin to form a strong bond together over the next few days of recovery. On the third day, she asked Knackle, "Knackle, will you be my father? I have no one or where to go back to." Knackle, with a happy smile, says back to her, "Of course I would be your father. I would never want something as precious as you to be wandering the streets alone." And from that day forward, Asa had a place to call home, and a father to watch over her and care for her. 8 years later, while at the market stall gathering food for dinner, Asa witnessed a poor old man begging for food from a cart owner. After a short bit of ignoring it, she sees the old man being beaten away from the cart by the owner. Enraged at this, she drops her food and basket and runs towards the injured old man. Getting in between the cart owner and the old beggar, the cart owner shouts, "Get out of my way, kid. This old man is trying to steal from my cart." Not moving, Asa stands firmly between the old man and the cart owner. Giving out a shriek, the cart owner attempts to hit Asa for not listening to what he commanded, striking her arm as she attempts to block the whip. Fury pouring through her eyes, she quickly pulls the owner with her arm still wrapped in the whip, clocking him over the head with a deft strike, knocking him out cold. The people around stand in awe as Asa's arm bloody from the whip walks over to the cart and grabs some fruit from it and hands it to the old man, saying softly to him, "Here, take some. You need it." The old man, slightly startled by the show of might by Asa, listens to her. "Just remember to keep fighting, 'cause things always get better." The old man smiles back at her, standing slowly up, and walks away, eating the newly acquired fruit. Later that day, on Asa's way home, she is surprised by 3 armed thieves attempting to fight them off, but with no chance of winning. Asa eventually collapses to a knee. 2 of the men grab her by the arms and pick her limp body off the ground. The third man removes his cowl, showing his face to her. Instantly recognizing it as the cart owner, she attempts to fight back, but with no success. Mockingly, the cart owner says to her, "This is the last time you will humiliate me in front of my own business," raising his arm to take a stab with his knife to her to finish her off. Asa's eyes glow bright with an almost radiant fire. The men holding her shriek in pain as they see their flesh burning off the bone. Collapsing on the ground in pain, they begin to slowly lose their life force and become nothing but a charred corpse. Anna stares back into the cart owner's eyes and begins to speak in a language spoken only by the gods themselves. Paralyzed in fear and unable to move, the cart owner collapses on the ground and begins to put his hands into the air, saying, "Please, forgive me. I didn't know what I was doing. I promise I will never do it again." Hearing his plea for mercy, walking straight towards him now, surrounding her very presence in fire, stands over the man and speaks in Celestial. "Leave Waterdeep and never return, for if I find you here ever again, I will not hesitate but to end you here, wherever you stand. Now go!" Getting quickly up and running away as fast as he can, the fire begins to simmer in her eyes, eventually coming to her normal silvered color. Looking around and seeing the two burnt bodies, she shrieks in terror and runs home to tell her father of what happened. Once home, she begins to explain what happened to her father, crying at the end of her story into her father's chest. Knuckles says to her with a reassuring voice, "Now, sweetheart, what happened may be scary for you, but you need to understand. This is who you are. You are more than a mere human. I could see that the day I took you into my shop. And I think it's high time that you spread your wings and find out who you really are." Looking back at him with water-soaked eyes, Asa says, "But how am I to do that? The roads are dangerous. I would have to hire mercenaries to get to anywhere outside of Waterdeep. And even if I could find someone to travel with, where do I even begin to look?" Trembling, after her words confused and lost, she begins to sob once again. "Sweetheart, if I were you, I would look into possibly adventuring. I've heard many stories of those kinds of people going out and discovering hidden secrets and treasures of all kinds." Wiping off the tears and giving a small sniffle. "But where am I to begin adventuring? It's not like I can just walk in and get a job." Knuckle, with a large smile across his small face, says with a laugh, "Oh, but it is that simple, Asa. Here, I'll give you some starting money to get your feet off the ground. After you get some gear from the smith in town, just head on over to the Yawning Portal Tavern, and I'm sure you will find a band of adventurers looking for someone of your skill in no time." Asa responding with a slightly cleared throat. "Really? You think they would want some of my skills?" Responding with the same smiled face. "Why, of course, dear. I'll even bet if you get down there before it gets too late, you'll be hired within a day." Excited by this prospect, Asa takes the money from Knuckle, and with one final hug from her father, sets out on her quest to become an adventurer and find out who she really is and why she is here. Now, a year into the adventuring life, Asa has honed her skills as a sellsword for all who are able to pay for her fees. Working for coin and always ready for a quest, Asa still believing that one day she will find out who she really is and why she is here. But perhaps that day is sooner than she realizes.